The salary hits your account on a Friday morning. You open your phone. The number appears. Rounded. Clean. Just looking at it makes you feel a little lighter. For the first few seconds, it feels like you've just moved forward. A month of work. In exchange for that number. It sounds reasonable. It sounds fair. You might even tell yourself, yeah, at least everything is still working the way it should. But that feeling doesn't last long. Just a few minutes later, the transactions begin to appear. Rent goes first. No notification, no waiting for you to prepare, no giving you a choice. It just disappears from your account. A large number, gone so quickly you barely have time to react.
Subscribe for more story about money, power, and the system.
Then the credit card, not paid off in full. You know you can't afford that yet. Just the minimum. Just to keep everything from getting worse. Then insurance. Then electricity. Then internet. Then a small late fee you thought you had avoided. You remembered, you tried, but somehow it's still there. It's always there. You look at the list of transactions and begin to realize something. You don't actually decide these payments. Their order was already set in advance. Your money just enters the system and then automatically flows out, following a path that was arranged long before. You're just the point in the middle. You look at the balance again. It's still there. But it's no longer the number it was at the beginning. And more importantly, it's no longer the feeling it was at the beginning. It shrinks faster than you expected. And the things that haven't arrived yet, food, gas, unexpected expenses, are still waiting ahead. They're always there. They just haven't shown up yet. You start doing the math in your head. If nothing happens this month, you'll be okay. You'll be able to maintain your current state. But you also know the opposite is true. All it takes is one small thing to go off. A medical bill, an unpaid day off, something in the house breaking, and everything starts to slip. Not slowly, but immediately off course. You're not the kind of poor people usually imagine. You're not unemployed. You're not without income. You still pay your bills. From the outside, everything looks fine. But you're not moving forward. You're just holding your position. Each month passes, and you almost return to exactly where you started. Not because you spend recklessly, not because you lack discipline, but because most of the money you earn already has somewhere to go before you even think about keeping any of it. You call it income. But if you look more closely, it looks more like a stream of money passing through you than something you truly own. And just a few hours after payday, you begin to feel something deeply uncomfortable. You don't get to hold your money long enough to do anything else with it. Not long enough to change the game. Not long enough to create distance. Not long enough to accumulate it into something else. Income does not automatically move you forward. That sounds like it should be true, but reality is not that simple. Sometimes it only does enough to make sure you can keep participating, keep paying, keep juggling, keep existing inside a system where there is always someone already standing there, waiting for their share of your money. If you've ever looked at your account and thought, I'm doing everything right, so why is nothing changing? Then maybe you should stay a little longer, because this story does not begin with whether or not you work hard. And if you listen until the end, you'll realize it doesn't end there either. This isn't really a story about escaping poverty, at least not in the way you usually hear it. On the surface, it looks very familiar. Work more, save more, make better decisions. Avoid mistakes, stay consistent long enough, and eventually things will be okay. That is the common story, the one almost everyone believes at some point. And honestly, it's not completely wrong. It's just not enough. Because one thing becomes very clear. If you look around, a lot of people are doing exactly that. They go to work, they try, they save, they don't spend carelessly, and they still stay in place. Not because they don't try, but because they are playing inside a system where moving forward is not the default outcome. This video is not here to tell you that you need to try harder, not here to motivate you, not here to give you a neat, digestible formula for success. This is here to peel things back, to peel back how things actually work underneath. Because the problem is not only how much money you make, it lies in where that money goes, and who gets to keep the final share of its value. Once you begin looking there, something will change. Not your circumstances immediately, but the way you understand the game you are inside. And to do that, you need to look back at the board. Not the simplified version you were taught, but the real one. In the simplified version, everything is clear. You go to school, you gain skills, you get a job, you earn a salary, you spend less than you make, you save the rest, then invest it. Over time, it will accumulate. Sounds reasonable. Sounds easy to understand. And most importantly, it's simple enough for everyone to believe. But that is only the surface layer. If you look a little deeper, you will see many other things operating at the same time. You are not just a worker. You are a supply of time for a wage-paying system. The company that pays you does not exist to pay salaries. It exists to optimize labor cost relative to the value it creates. The bank does not just hold your money. It looks at you, evaluates your borrowing ability, then sells money to you under different terms. The people who own assets, homes, land, stocks, do not need to work directly with your time, but they still benefit when asset values rise. Your landlord is not just giving you a place to live. They are a point that your money must pass through every month. And above all of that is policy, interest rates, credit regulations, taxes, zoning. Things you do not control, yet they shape the entire environment you live in. From the outside, everything seems separate, but in reality, they are connected into a system where money is not only earned, it is redistributed, rerouted. And most importantly, it flows in directions that were designed in advance. What you were taught, work hard, spend less, avoid mistakes, is not wrong, but it is not the whole game. It is only the part you are allowed to see. And when you look a little deeper, you begin to notice something else. Your choices, the job you take, the loan you accept, the way you spend money, are not actually as free as you think. They are created inside a pre-built environment, limited in advance, and directed without you noticing. When you step back, you realize the board is no longer small. It is bigger, more complex, and far colder. The education system, the thing you were always told is the path to move up, is not actually designed to turn you into an owner. It teaches you how to function well inside an existing system. You were taught how to complete tasks, how to follow process correctly, how to optimize performance. But very rarely are you taught how to build your own cash flow or how to own something that truly creates long-term value. Not because someone forgot, but because that is not the function of the system. An economy needs a large number of people who can work steadily, predictably, replaceably when necessary. It does not need and cannot operate if everyone becomes an owner. And then you move into another layer. The banking system. There, money is no longer something you have. It is something sold to you. Banks do not make money simply by holding money. They make money by pricing access to money. They look at you, then decide how much you are allowed to borrow, for how long, and at what price. If you have assets, a good history, stable income, you are considered safe. You buy money at a cheaper price. But if you do not have those things, you pay more for the exact same thing. The same money, but different costs. And that difference is not just about cost. It is how the system distributes value. Cheap money flows toward those who already have money. Expensive money flows toward those who need it the most. You may not notice it immediately, but you are living inside it every single month. Meanwhile, something else is quietly happening above. Asset prices, housing, land, stocks. They do not rise at the pace of wages. They rise at the pace of capital flow. When large money moves, prices move with it. When policy changes, prices react instantly. When interest rates shift, assets tremble. And your salary, it moves much slower. Far slower. And the gap begins to open. Those who already own assets don't need to do much, yet their value increases. Those who don't have to run faster just to stay in place. At some point, owning assets is no longer a goal. It becomes a barrier. Something on the other side. Not because you don't try, but because your starting line is being pushed further away every year. But there's another layer, and this one is more dangerous because it is almost invisible. The way this story is told. When someone doesn't move forward, the narrative is always familiar. They lack discipline. They don't manage money well. They don't work hard enough. It sounds right, and sometimes it is partially true. But the problem is, when you only tell the story that way, you are doing something else. You turn a structure into an individual's fault. You take a complex system and reduce it into a single decision. The story becomes easier to understand. But the system disappears. And when the system disappears from view, it also stops being questioned. You stop asking, how are the rules designed? You only ask, did I play well enough? And that's when the system no longer needs to defend itself. It is protected by the way you understand it. At this point, if you look long enough, you begin to see something clearly. This is not random. This is a structure. And that structure does not require everyone to move up. If everyone escaped the lower positions, the current system would no longer function the same way. It needs workers, people who have to work because they cannot stop. It needs borrowers, people who must repay over time. It needs consumers, people who keep the flow of money moving steadily. And it needs a very specific state. Not too bad to collapse. Not too good for everyone to leave the game. Just enough to continue. That is the equilibrium. And the system optimizes for that point. Not for fairness, not for everyone to own assets, not for everyone to escape. Escaping can happen, but it is not the default. It is the exception. And when you see it as an exception, everything starts to make more sense. Why it is difficult, why it is unclear, why there are no clear instructions. Because it is not something the system is designed to produce at scale. This does not mean you cannot move forward. But it does mean if you misunderstand the game, you will make the wrong decisions from the beginning. If you think it is all about effort, you will keep trying but miss the point. If you think earning more money is enough, you may not see the difference between earning money and retaining value. If you see debt as a neutral tool, you won't see how it locks your choices over time. If you see housing, work, and investing as separate decisions, you won't see that they are part of the same system. And that is the biggest mistake. Not choosing the wrong product, but misunderstanding the game. When you begin to see the difference between merely surviving and truly moving forward, between earning money and owning assets, Between personal choices and structural conditions, the way you make decisions will change. Not because you have more motivation, but because you see more clearly the real limits of each choice. And then you return to the starting point. Payday still comes. The number still appears. The deductions still happen. Exactly the same. Nothing in that system changes just because you understand it. But one thing has changed. You. You no longer think you are losing because you are not good enough. You understand that you are inside a stratified mechanism. Each position comes with a different set of conditions. And when you move, you don't escape the system. You simply move to another layer within it. A layer where pressure is distributed differently. A layer where mistakes can be absorbed better. A layer where you retain more value. But still the same structure. You don't break the machine. You just stop standing at the exact point where it grinds you the hardest. Poverty is not just a condition, it is a position that the system always needs someone to occupy. And the system does not need you to fail in order to continue. It only needs you to keep participating. If you've made it this far, don't stop at understanding. Look back at your own position within that system. And in the next part, we'll go deeper into how you actually move within it, not by the rules you were told, but by the real ones.
Subscribe for more story about money, power, and the system.